Kim, I see you. Hello, Trish. Good to see you. Um, yes, Kim, you're curious about the answers on the poll. Excellent. Yeah, I actually have. Can everyone see that slide deck? I have. Great. I have the results from the survey up, and we'll be going over some of those. And I honestly, really, everybody, I do need a ton of help with this because I have always been a little challenged by understanding the relationship that talent development has with just L&D in general. I know ATD, when they renamed themselves, I probably should have been more familiar with exactly why they renamed themselves. So I know one of the main reasons, because they used to be ASTD. So of course, the branding itself was kind of a disaster. So changing over, I probably should have understood it a little better. But I am glad. That's one of the reasons why this event is particularly interesting to me, so that we can make more connections that way. But so with the results on these slides, I'm going to be going over them. I did pull these results like kind of late last night, drop them on these slides so that I can share them with everybody. But honestly, I haven't gone into them in depth. I do have a lot of suggestions for speakers. I see that Jeremy is in here, who I am really excited about letting everyone know that Jeremy Berman is going to be part of the event. And so let me just get into it. Abby Stewart is on the panel right now on screen. You can see Abby down in the bottom there. Abby, why don't you say a little bit, just introduce yourself, let us know exactly who you are.
Sure. I'm Abby. I'm based here out of Denver. I know we're all kind of dotted all over the place here. I'm actually a former educator. I've gone through a couple iterations in remote workspaces, done online enrollment for K-12. I had most recently worked for a tech boot camp, and unfortunately I was laid off in June. So I have been upskilling and finding my way into the L&D space, and I'm still figuring out what that move looks like. So happy to be a part of crafting this and just diving in. So
no, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here, Abby, and you've been really active in our Slack group, so I definitely appreciate that. And I did send over invites to Rebecca if you're interested. I did send you an invite to come on it. If you didn't see that, let me know. And then I think Bobby as well. Who else did I send one to? Let's see. Oh, I see Deborah's here. Great. And if anybody else wants to come on screen, okay, let me try that again, Rebecca. Crowdcast has been a little inconsistent for me. Okay, I just resent that over. So anybody else, if you want to come on screen, happy to have you. So let me go ahead and just jump into some of the results here. So with the poll, one of the first questions was, oh, here comes Rebecca. Hold on, let me get back to that screen share. Ah, there you are. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, how's it going?
Going good. That's going good. Nice to see you. Very interesting. Yeah, this, let me see, how do I pull the slides back up again? As soon as you popped up, the slides like disappeared. All right, let me see, are you pinned or unpinned? Ah, there we go. All right. So first question was top 3 learning objectives you believe are crucial for this conference. You could sort of see, I'm sorry, the text is so small at the bottom. That's the selection of poll replies that or multiple choice answers that we had available for that poll. But the 3 top ones were understanding current industry trends, developing effective learning strategies, and adapting to remote learning environments. Do you have any feedback? Does anybody have any feedback on how you feel about those top 3 learning objectives for this conference? Understanding current industry trends, developing effective learning strategies, adapting to remote learning environments. And Rebecca, oh, nice to see you, Cindy. I'm going to go ahead and ask you this one. I mean, what do you think about those? Do you think those top 3 relevant for you?
They are, and especially when it comes to talent development, because really and truly, if you're in like the corporate space, things like that, you need to know what the latest up and coming trends are so you can reach all your learners. in whatever environment you're in. So I think they're actually really relevant and make complete sense to me.
Nice. Oops. Hang on, you guys. I'm trying to get it so that this slide is the main thing, but doesn't seem to be. Sorry, I've never had like this many guests at one time on Crowdcast, so I'm learning here. How do I do this so I can get this the main thing? All right, not working for me. Hold on. Let me see if I can guide you guys. No, that just keeps on moving around. Yeah, okay. Well, that one kind of works, I guess. All right, so top 3 that are crucial for this one. All right. Anybody else have any feedback? Bobby, what do you think? Under current industry trends, effective learning strategies, adapting to remote learning environments.
I apologize. I'm late to the party.
That's okay. So crucial for this conference. Those were the top 3 that the poll sort of came. The results were. So
Yeah. So I thought the poll was interesting because I think about talent development in one way, and I think about instructional design in another way. Now they're complementary to one another. And so some of the poll questions I thought were definitely geared more towards the instructional design side.
nice.
But if it is on a talent development side, I do think items around skills, like what does it mean to create learning, skills-based learning, and on the job training opportunities to enhance people's skills. How do you properly assess for the acquisition of those skills? How do you create digital badges and digital credentials that are proof that people have acquired those skills? And so there's a little bit of the talent development strategic thought there. And then I think how you can use instructional design or marry instructional design up to that to deliver. So for me, in terms of answering the poll and stuff, I was trying to put the talent development hat on more than the
Yeah.
instructional design side.
Can you give me what your take on talent development is when it comes to sort of the L&D, like, I don't know. For some reason I want to say diaspora, but just sort of the whole L&D like umbrella of it. Where exactly? I mean, you're saying that talent development and instructional design are complementary to each other, but why is the biggest association in L&D is ATD? Like how does it fit it as a piece into the entire puzzle?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is just me speaking, and anyone can say something different and it still be true, right? For me, I feel like talent development is the holistic view of everything that you're putting together to support somebody in their learning journey, or to support a job role, or to support an occupation in terms of their skilling, upskilling, and reskilling. It's the whole picture. I feel like instructional design is like the mechanisms. Sorry, I have a foster dog. She's brand new. She's currently growling. She wants to be petted.
Yeah.
And I feel like instructional design is the mechanisms and principles that you apply to creating individual products. And so sometimes it's done in like it's product centered, or it's done in isolation of that holistic view, because you're applying it to the creation of a certain learning solution or learning product. It doesn't mean that instructional design doesn't apply across talent development, but I think talent development is the whole spectrum and learning continuum, and instructional design is more of an isolated skill.
Yeah, great. No, that's great. And Deborah's saying, I see instructional
Yeah.
design is supporting
agree,
talent
Deborah.
development. Cindy, do you have a take on this at all? I mean, you're a senior leader.
Yeah, I agree. I think instructional design is part of the talent development process, because obviously talent development includes the learning, that the learning experience, and that process, the design part is there, right? But talent development is it's multifaceted, so the things that are important in my organization right now, yes, instructional design is part of that, but it's the whole picture. It's how are the leaders encouraging employees to focus on that as part of the expectation within skill building for that individual, and I think I think so many times organizations get caught up in the metrics of performance and, the OKRs and the KPIs, and the employees' skill development or level development can get lost in that, and so it's tough. It's tough to put together a strategy that works for every organization, because you really need to have the manager on board, to also focused on what their people are going to be able to do. So and there's a challenge there, right? Because managers, if they are able to put together a dream team that is performing and providing the business results, well, sometimes they don't want to disrupt that by upskilling their dream team to another opportunity within the organization, so it's a tough challenge, but our employees expect it. I know I do, personally, as an employee. I want to know that I'm leveling up at some point and moving on to the next role or the next opportunity, even though I'm with a successful team.
I love it. And everybody, I want to introduce you real quick to Jeremy. We've spoken a couple of times in the past. Is it Make See Do? I can't remember, Jeremy. Sorry.
Dream, see, do.
Dream See Do. That's right. That's
Yeah,
his
like the words
organization.
dream, see, and do.
Right.
Yeah.
What's your take on this?
Yeah, this is great, y'all. I'm so happy to be here and to support the community and also be involved in the event. I come from the kind of a combo lens. I've done a lot of coaching and run hackathons and kind of run the gamut in this space for years, and now running our small but mighty sort of heart-centered technology company in the space. So I come from that purview, and we're in an interesting moment of transformation and thought right now about what's happening. And I think when I see those topics, Louis, I think they're great. Obviously, like AI, everyone's talking about AI as well. I think there are these, when you talk about trends, that's probably the single biggest one that folks are speaking about. And for us, it's like, how do you approach things like that in a very human-centered kind of way and not try to rush to use them, so that because we believe that the actual support that people get from other humans is critical. And when I think about all this, I think something that Bobby said earlier really resonated or stuck out to me about, Bobby, I don't remember exactly, because then a million other thoughts went through my head right after, but you said something to the degree of talent development is sort of the broader holistic picture, and instructional design sort of just a small. Can you remind me what you said about the instructional design part of that?
Sure. It's almost like instructional design is the mechanism that helps you act on. I think, who was it?
Deborah.
Was it yeah, Kim or somebody has a comment in the chat that it's
Deborah said that
design is the mechanism that you allows you to act on your talent development strategy.
Yeah.
And so to that point, I sort of, what's on my mind, y'all, is that, we're thinking about like, how do we put the best tools possible, or just like processes or approaches or learning models in front of the creators? That's really what I'm excited about right now. And like, I feel like that gets lost in the mix sometimes, and the creators aren't elevated to a space that they need to be. A creator can be an instructional designer. A creator could be a manager in an organization that wants to build something really quickly for someone that, we're really into behavior change and mindset change and leadership and management for us. So I think about that a lot, but I just think it gets lost somehow, in that these are the folks, probably most people in this room are the glue. And like, how do we elevate people that are doing all this incredible work, so they're not like just the thing or the mechanism, Bobby, right? Like, I think it's more than that. I think it's the most important element in many ways. And so much, it gets mired in so many decision makings and compliance, and like, it gets messy. And so how do we elevate people so that they have the right tools to be able to advance their work and showcase and highlight that work and create real impact? Anyway, I could talk this for hours, but
I know. That's great, Jeremy. Thank you. No, I appreciate that.
The other side of that is we're also like the advocates for the learners themselves, right? And I think that's a huge part of the talent development piece, is being able to say to leadership, like, hey, you recognize that there's this problem, but you know what? Your people don't care. And so let's have those hard conversations about why they don't care, right? It's the whole empathy. It's the emotional intelligence piece. It's improving your communications, because you know, if you're not going to provide people with that psychological safety and an environment in which they want to be and want to learn, anything that leadership is throwing money towards, especially on the instructional design side, it's for naught.
Yeah.
So I think that's, you know, again, one of those many hats that we wear and that we have to start bringing to the forefront, because again, I think it was Cindy was, you know, talking about metrics. Like, it's not all about metrics, it's about people. So let's not even call it like talent development. Like, let's talk about taking care of people. And I think that
Development,
mindset
yeah.
shift can help us so much.
Agreed.
I love it. Rebecca, I'm wondering how often you're a freelance instructional designer. How often do you consider talent development in what you're doing, in the work you're doing?
All of the time.
Yeah.
Mostly because I'm being asked to create programs a lot of the time.
Mhm.
And they're like, well, we want to teach them this. Okay, that's fine. However, what is driving this decision? What do you ultimately really want your people to get out of this program? Are we trying to just talk about metrics, or are we trying to actually get them to a different place? So for me, talent development and instructional design really are kind of more supporting in terms of the instructional design, supporting the talent development goals, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. As an instructional designer, I love all the things that I do, but I really do feel like part of our role is to support the initiatives, whatever those are. And in most cases, it really does need to be about people.
Mhm.
Will they be able to go on to different things? Will they be able to maybe stay in this organization, but find a different way to fulfill themselves, make themselves feel, you know, good about the work that they do and the job that they do, while also benefiting the company. So for me, talent development comes in a lot, just when I'm consulting, because sometimes people come to me with this idea. It sounds really good to them, but they don't really have an idea of how that plays into their greater picture and landscape. It's just kind of a off idea, and we then have to talk about and have those conversations about, where are you really wanting this to go? What are you even basing this off of? Is this just based off of a leadership conversation that you had, or are you actually getting down in the trenches with your people and finding out, do they care about these things? If they don't care about these things, why don't they care about these things? Is it contributing to their job? Like, what is really happening? And so to me, talent development can't really exist without some kind of instructional design. Like, you have to have that to support the initiatives that you want to actually bring to your people.
Does every instructional designer have to have talent development as a priority?
Every instructional designer, I would say no, only because different sectors, different projects, different clients.
Mhm.
Obviously, if you're dealing with SaaS, if you're dealing with corporate, I would honestly say probably, because that is a huge thing. And it's very important to actually have that talent development thing in your head. Because as a designer, you don't want to just create this one off thing. Like, I'm somebody, if I create something, if I spend my time doing it, I want to make sure that there's a purpose and it fits within like the greater scope for my client. So does every designer have to have it in every situation? No, because sometimes it doesn't necessarily drive with that.
Yeah.
But in certain sectors, we have to be mindful of it.
Mhm.
And we do have to be asking ourselves those questions. Is this something more talent development related, or kind of what is it that I'm actually doing? So as opposed to becoming like order takers, I saw it on LinkedIn one day and I was like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. So rather than becoming an order taker, actually really being involved and engaged and just thoughtful about the things that we're creating and the why behind we're creating them.
No, this is great. This is a great opportunity. We have several hundred years, I think, of experience in this in this panel and this audience. So we have a lot of people that know what they're talking about. I want to read Sumi's comment here. In talent development, I see a few areas: assessing business needs, learning strategy, designing and evaluating the programs, career development, etc., for various employee groups. So very like this. And then Bobby, your question: why is it always about talent development and not employer development? Which kind of connects a little bit with some of what Kim is saying. So, there Kim follows up with employer or employee. Very
I
interesting.
mean, employer, right? So this is me probably being a little cynical and blunt, but we keep talking about employees need to do this, employees need to do that, employees need skills, employees need this, so we have individuals who are just running in the hamster wheel, right? Trying to get a good job, trying to get paid well, trying to work in a safe space. But they're not in control of job quality and employer quality. And so we're doing everything as individuals to help other people be their best. But where is the responsibility of employers to be their best, to accommodate people who are trying to be their best to work for them? Like, it's a synergy. And I feel like right now there's this huge disconnect. And I do think what Sumi was talking about in terms of all of those different aspects that comprise talent development and more, like human capital strategy, I think that that's a serious role that traditional instructional designers can step into, because we are so people focused, we are people centric.
Very interesting. So back to sort of the conference and you know, and the topics, the crucial topics for was this the wrong question to ask? And are these results what we want to see or worthwhile? Understanding current industry trends, developing effective learning strategies, adapting to remote learning environments. Could have been me. The choices that I offered in there were just things that I had, as I was like browsing, you know, looking through the ATD website and just learning more about talent development as I was going through it. I kind of came up with these topics. But is this something that, or is this a good baseline to kind of start out with, so we have a frame or structure to build the conference off of?
I think it does, especially developing effective learning strategies, because I don't care if you're 5 or you're 55. If I don't care, I'm not going to engage and learn what you're asking me to. And I bet you everyone in this room, myself included, has gotten the employee mandatory email training and rolled their eyes like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're sending this to me. I don't want to take this. This is boring. It's not exciting. And if I don't care, I'm not going to pay attention. So I feel like that is at the very heart of everything that instructional designers and learning experience creators do. And that's where the talent comes in. If you can't make me care, I'm not going to pay attention. So that's my 2 cents on that.
No, thank you, Abby. I appreciate that. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide just because I have, I don't know, 6 or 7 of them. Topics or themes prioritized in our program. We had actually 4 because 3 of them got the same percentage, but emerging technologies in instructional design, inclusive and accessible learning materials, soft skills development and digital learning, data analytics and learning and development. So do you think that those 4 would be a nice sort of like baseline that we can try to cover with this one?
Love those.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Excellent. Okay, so next one here. Which soft skills are most important to address for instructional designers? Communication and collaboration, problem solving and critical thinking, creativity and innovation. Those were the top 3. You like those? What do you think, Jeremy?
I mean, I always go to EQ as well.
Mhm.
Emotional intelligence is such a huge one. Neurodiversity feels very present and super important. I mean, if I think about the future of work and where we're finally coming to topics that should have been addressed for eons, right? I mean, there's always a sort of small 1% of people that really are heart-centered and care about this stuff, and it's just cutting to, you know, scraping the surface. But neurodiversity, D&I is an important topic. Inclusivity, obviously, huge. But yeah, out of neurodiversity, I think EQ is a huge one.
So Jeremy, I know that we've talked, and I want you to be a speaker in this conference. Do you have an idea of what you wanted to talk about
in the conference?
Yeah.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. I mean, I was just wondering, like, should I even jump in? I just wanted to say hi and say I'm excited to support, but that's cool.
Sorry, man.
No, you're good. You're good. Everybody's so open here. It's amazing. Great community. Yeah, I am like, I love the themes and I love the topics, and I'm also just, you know, I feel like there's so much broken, as Bobby and some others might have said, in the space right now, and it's like so focused. Look, things are so always focused on profit, and how do we bring purpose and, you know, sort of a cultures of belonging and trust to the surface. And so like that creates, like, to me, that requires a collective impact. of all the practitioners that are so many folks in this community, people that are making decision makers in corporations, and then the folks that are supporting it, like myself, that are running technology companies that really want to do it in a way that's more meaningful and have sacrificed everything, if I can humbly share that, not going the traditional route to really hold hands with all those parties and stakeholders to make a true difference. And that sounds a little hokey, I guess, but that's really what we want to do. And I think everyone here wants to do that in this room that I've heard so far. So there's sort of this like bigger strategic push happening of like, well, how do we elevate all of our opportunity to really make a difference so that it's not so compliance oriented or transactional, like, and the approach can be more meaningful. Is that too heavy? I don't know.
No, that's not heavy at all. And Cindy, just like coincidentally, I mean, right when you're saying that, she posted, we need to tackle being transactional versus being purposeful.
Absolutely. It's total coincidence. It's just been on my mind that in business, sometimes we tend to be too much about the transaction, about the metric, about the result, about the objective, the org transfer, whatever, and purpose needs to be at the center so that we can see culture change. So, and there's this, we're at this weird space, right, where we have this aging workforce that has been transactional and performance based, and their value has been rated on those things. But we have this new generation of workers that are coming in, and they are very purpose mindset, and they have to be very connected, and it has to mean something, and they expect that of our organizations. And so although some of our organizations may be saying they're doing these things, sometimes it doesn't feel like that because it feels very transactional. So yeah, so it's kind of, I love what Jeremy is saying, because we have a bit of a big hill to climb in helping our leadership who are maybe coming from this transactional based, I'm top sales, I'm best in the business, to, but is there purpose behind it? Because that, if you can change it and tweak it so that purpose is built in, we'll always be the best, right? Theoretically. So people will always be doing their best because it means something to them. So it's pretty interesting, interesting time and an interesting shift, I think, in the world, for sure.
Can I just add one quick thought to that?
Sure.
Just to pin on what Cindy, thank you. Yeah, I mean, again, to bring this full circle, I feel like, to make a big paradigm shift like that in any, and I studied collective impact a lot. I don't know if you all have looked into that. And it's around getting different organizations together to create a change, a system change. And there's like a backbone organization. It's a really nifty concept. Anyway, so I sort of use it euphemistically. But in that regard, and to Cindy, what you were saying too, I feel like it, and you have here like a movement happening, sort of, Lewis, with a bunch of people that are like-minded, that are really caring and want to make a difference. I feel like to arm people with what's possible, and so that they can highlight in each of our own little spots, or big spots, what's possible, that starts to create some movement, right? Because I think trying to say, oh, decision makers, you just got to change is really challenging. So I think it really starts with a grassroots level approach of arming folks with the right modern tools and innovation and new practices and things of that nature, learning models that can really fundamentally start to shapeshift. And that if that's across all these little nodes or beacons of light, it kind of collective impact can happen. So I just wanted to share that last thought there.
No, I love it. Rebecca, since you're a freelancer, I love hearing kind of your take on some of this stuff. That whole idea of what was it, transactional versus, what did Cindy say here? Purposeful. Being
I like Bobby's comment on versus transformational.
Right.
Just similar, right? So we're in this change, right? So most organizations are adopting DEI, for example. Of course, that's been a positive thing to like bring that in, but if we're not looking at the data, so as talent development managers, we need to look at the data behind the training and the action and the change, and what we're talking about DEI, but how is it impacting? How is it more than just talk? How are we making transformational change and using some of the tools that are available today to help us see the blind spots so that we can, raise the red flag and make sure we are being fair and inclusive and living that purpose of being more equitable.
See,
So
I think that. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna follow up with you, Rebecca. Just even your relationships with your clients and how this might apply to that.
When I think about purposeful, and I even think about D&I initiatives or whatnot, obviously I'm a woman of color. Those are great things. But what I'm noticing is it really does have to be purposeful and figuring out why are we even doing it? Because what is really happening around is that a lot of DEI programs are getting cut. People are getting laid off. They're getting heavily hit. And so it all goes back to what was our purpose for doing this in the first place? Was it really just to kind of just go with trends? Or was it to really make an impactful change in our organization and actually take a whole different take on things? And what you're seeing is that purpose just, for a lot of people, it's just not there.
Yeah.
So it's really about, in my mind, when we talk about wanting to change organizations, wanting to change cultures, things like that, in some ways, it's almost like managing up, because some of these people have no idea how to make these changes in a real way. They don't have any real context in some ways, if we're all just being honest today and transparent, just because of their previous experiences. And so I say it a lot, even as designers, with our leadership and talking about accessibility and things, sometimes we have to show people like, this is worth it. This is the business case. This is the buy-in. Because as much as we say it, as much as I might say to a client over and over again, this needs to be accessible. You should be wanting all of your learners to learn these things. They may not hear me simply because they're like, I don't get the business case here. Like, I'm not hearing it. And so sometimes you do have to figure out, how can I actually show you that this is the way to go? How can I actually produce, results that will show you that? And I know technically we shouldn't have to, but I'm very much a realist, as I'm sure a couple of you know. And sometimes it's the reality of it. People think very differently. People come from different backgrounds. And there are some leaders that we will have to show this is a good thing for you, as opposed to trying to tell them through empathy and emotion. Because they're just not those humans. Not necessarily bad people, but that's just not how their thought process runs. And so in my freelance world, I find myself doing that a lot. Like, fine, I'm just going to make this accessible, and then we're going to talk in like 3 months after I get your metrics and stuff, and we're going to see growth. And then I can tell you, well, we're seeing the growth because of this. So how about we continue to do this trend? Yeah, sound good? Yeah, great, kind of thing. So I love all of this. This is so great.
That's great, Rebecca. I do want to hear from Abby, though. Abby, kind of newer to L&D. Do you have any feedback on this conversation? Things that you might have seen as you're coming in?
I don't know. I'm relatively newer in the corporate space because most of my experience has been in the education world. But I think a lot of what it is I think Rebecca's absolutely right. Unless you can see it from dollar signs, I don't think that you can bring, that's the sad reality of it. Unless you're going to show me bottom line that my profit is going to increase, that's essentially your hook. So finding a way to show them through data, hey, look, when we include everyone, you actually do increase your profits, whether it's more people that can use your product. You're also capitalizing on your employees because everybody brings something different to the table. And all of our there's a lot of people out there that are neurodivergent in some way, and they have incredible skills. And when people are allowed to showcase that and we can all work together, not only do you make it for a better working team, but you also make your product accessible because you're listening to everyone's perspective. So I think as long as you approach it from the money angle, that's what's going to get people on board, because as much as you want to speak empathy and it's the right thing to do, that's really not corporate speak. With corporate, it's all about the dollar signs. Sadly, it's the way it's what is that phrase? It's not personal, it's business. So yeah, that's my take.
No, I appreciate that.
And in the education world, we all come with big hearts and we all care. And it's a little harder to make people care in the corporate space.
Yeah. Yeah. And admittedly, like when I was building all of this, I feel like it was all sort of very, very transactional the way that I was considering it. So I do appreciate having this conversation, and there's probably going to be a little bit, well, there's going to be a shift. So next slide, let me go through this. Key challenges facing instructional designers that the conference should address: balancing theory and practical application, engaging remote learners, assessing learning outcomes effectively. Might be not such a great question for me to have asked and put into the poll, but um, any feedback on that at all? Is that something that's still relevant that we should try to address in this event?
I think so. I think it's all tied in. I think that part of instructional design and something that I see lacking in a lot of programs is well-defined or well-developed pre and post activities, so we all know the standard statistics of how much people retain when they're sitting in a workshop, blah blah blah. But that we also know that unless you have a chance to practice a new skill, it's hard to change that behavior. So I'm sure Jeremy has something to add on that changing behavior piece, which is really the heart of ID, right? So we want to people to experience a training module, a training course, a training class, and do something different after that. You're hoping, right? So yeah, I think that theory and practical application are definitely resonate, engaging those learners remote, because the time COVID changed us, permanently. For some organizations, for mine personally, it permanently changed. We're 80% hybrid now, and although we do have some organizations going back full time, there's still a lot of us, like my organization, where it's still a shift. We're still primarily remote. So learning is different. You don't have an 8-hour, 4-hour, even a 2-hour workshop anymore, because it's difficult to handle. So yeah. And the assessment part is key for sure.
Louis, it's cool. Just quickly chime in. Cindy kind of tagged me a little bit there on the behavior change. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I was just writing an article. My co-founder and I deep dive years ago had these initial pillars of what we wanted to create as a foundation, and it was connection, practice, and reflection. And we created a learning model from that. And it was like 2 years ago. I had a bit of a marketing background, but I realized it's CPR. So I was like, my head exploded. I was like, oh my God. And we started creating interesting content, CPR for your training and coaching, to actually have those elements. And each of those are so powerful. And as you said, you do the research, and each of those things are so key: the human connection, the ability to truly practice and reflect, so that those 10% numbers of learning that sticks within 90 days goes up to 50, 80%. And it's got to be longitudinal over time, and have the pre and post assessments like you talked about. So those are such cool areas to discuss, Louis. I mean, I find all that very fascinating, and it's important stuff for sure.
Love it. Love it. There's some great comments. Let's see. Deborah saying, I see a lot of opportunity in the practical application of learning theories, especially in new IDs who come from another background. And follows up with, best practices for how adults learn is often lacking. Let's see, Abby, what you have here? Very biased with the educator background, but it's really important to know how to break down the information in meaningful ways and make it accessible to all learners. Yeah. Referencing UDL. And Kim follows up with, over 60% of the workers in the US cannot work remotely. TD needs to work for people whose jobs are not like ours, not office space. Yeah. Hobby horse topic. Thanks for that, Kim. All right, let's see. What do I have here? This might be the last slide. Should advanced strategies be explored in depth during the conference? Do these topics have relevance to you? So this was a group that, of topics that I threw in there. Just, because I know a lot of the content that TLDC puts out generally, I go for like maybe beginner to intermediate stuff, but this group, I wanted to see if there were anything that was like advanced that'd be interesting. So the top 3 were designing scalable learning models for large organizations, implementing advanced analytics for learner assessment, and developing comprehensive blended learning programs. And I do have some speakers in mind that that talk these things, but I wanted to see, what do you think generally for an event like this, if this is on point or no?
I feel like the advanced analytics for learner assessment pairs nicely with the previous slide where we were talking about learner assessment.
Okay.
And I think it then dovetails nicely with what Jeremy and Cindy have been talking about in terms of like this behavior change and things like that. And are we assessing for the bigger picture, right?
Love it. Excellent. So see, and here's the last slide. So as an L&D professional, what leadership and management topics are most relevant to you? So the top 3 were strategic planning in learning and development, navigating organizational politics in learning projects, and leading change in educational technology adoption. I thought that those were, yeah. All right. Cool. So there were a bunch of speakers that were recommended in the survey, and I definitely, I've already connected with most of them on LinkedIn, so I can reach out. But then I also, as you know, it's a priority of mine since we are a community. I love having the folks that are participating in building out the event just having an opportunity to speak and want to be a part of sharing their knowledge with everybody. So let's see, I did get a couple responses that said that they would like to speak, but since the survey was anonymous, I don't know who exactly those folks were. But I know, Rebecca, you wanted in, yeah? And we have Jeremy in. Bobby, I'm not sure. Is this something you'd want to participate in? I wasn't quite sure whether or not you.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about the skills side of things and the building of digital credentials and what that looks like, and that ties into the learner assessment piece.
Okay. And anybody else, please just sort of DM me, but I am just going to add people to my little spreadsheet that I build for speakers. Now we have a ton. I'm not sure. I don't want to do a full week event like I've done with some of the other ones. This is probably just going to be a 2-day thing with maybe 8 sessions, if that's okay with everybody. Well, I hope it's okay, because that's all I can handle nowadays.
What dates are you talking about?
That's the other thing, is we got to figure out what the schedule is going to look like. I am behind. That D&D event, between DevLearn and the D&D event, that took a ton out of me. I am still recovering from my cold that I caught in Las Vegas a month ago. So I still got to work that out. But yeah, it's probably going to be sometime within the first week or 2 of December, Jeremy. Hopefully you'll be around.
Yeah. So yeah, I asked because my we're going on vacation with the girls from the 9th to the 15th. So
okay. We'll figure it out.
I hope that I can.
No, definitely. I want to make sure.
Anytime before or after that, I'm golden. I'll make it. I'll clear my calendar for y'all. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And even if I had to do it from vacation, I could conceivably do that because I really want to be involved in my wife and girls.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Jeremy, if it's okay, I'm going to send you a link to our Slack group. We have a private channel, and so maybe you can get a peek into some of the conversations that we're having here. And we'll continue to do this. I am gonna I'll list out in that Slack channel some of the folks that were recommended as speakers, and we can go through and decide that. And then right after this, I'll just pull up my calendar and look at dates. And I am behind one event this year because I want to do one every month, but I'm behind because got busy. But I'm still working on that transitioning to L&D one, but as you folks might know, in Slack, I'm kind of rethinking how to approach that one. So I got to work on that. Okay. So that's pretty much it, everyone. This was a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate everyone coming in and like Deborah saying, brainstorming, and we're going to pull off a very, very cool event on this one to wrap up the year. So thanks, everyone. I really appreciate your time. And I promise next time I'll figure out how to get these windows to. I haven't had this many guests ever.
I hopped in. I was like, I'm going to make that thing even smaller.
I know. I'm like, how does this work? So we'll get that working out. So, all right, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and close it out. We'll see everyone next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend, y'all.
Everybody.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.